Hey folks, good morning and welcome to today's episode of MC Commute starring BMW's 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. This is the top dog of them all in BMW's GS family. Who's ready to go for a ride? All right, everyone, there it is, BMW's 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. This is the top dog in BMW Motorhead's GS Adventure touring lineup. This motorcycle is all new for the 2025 model year. It replaces the R1250 GS Adventure. This motorcycle is powered by a 1300cc Boxer twin engine that makes 130 horsepower at the business end of that billet 17-inch aluminum wheel. It also makes upwards of 95 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot of muscle. Well, everyone, enough talking about this thing. Let's swing a leg inside the saddle and see what it's like to ride. Sitting on this motorcycle, the ergonomics on this motorcycle are just awesome. Ever since the R1250 was released, this motorcycle has become more and more dirt bike-like in terms of its ergonomics and feel. And this R1300 GS Adventure feels like a dirt bike. The handlebar is nice and wide and upright. It's got a little bit of rearward sweep, but you could rotate the bar forward and have it be a more neutral sweep bend. But big high bar, a lot of leverage, feels very much like a dirt bike. This motorcycle is comfortable in the seated and standing positions. A lot of room to squeeze your legs, and it just feels really natural in the standing position. Unlike a dirt bike, however, the rider's seat on this motorcycle offers Harley-Davidson Touring and Honda Goldwing-like levels of comfort. The seat is crazy broad, the surface area is broad so you can move around, and the seat material is very plush and very thick. If I had to ride across country, I'd want to do it on this R1300 GS Adventure seat. It is crazy comfortable. The foot pegs are neither too high nor low. They're a little bit high, but that just again makes for a really good riding position in the standing position and just adds for comfort. We also like how serrated and oversized the foot pegs are, which give really good feel against the sole of your shoes or boots. Other ergonomics changes include this GS Adventure has this really broad fairing right here that houses the 8-gallon fuel tank. You heard that correctly, 8 gallons of fuel on this motorcycle. That gives the rider cocoon-like comfort, shielding us from the effects of the open road. We also have this electronically adjustable windscreen, which we can manipulate with the switch gear. So now we've got this electronically adjustable windscreen that offers an insane amount of height coverage. Look how high this thing goes. And it does a great job of blocking the elements. Of course, today's a hot day, or at least a mild day at 70 degrees, so we're going to want that windscreen in the lowest position. However, if it was a cold day, you'd raise that windshield and completely block yourself from the elements. All right, this motorcycle is powered by a 1300cc Boxer twin engine. BMW Motorhead has been building these engines for over 100 years in Germany. That is their secret sauce, the big torquey power pulses of this 1300cc Boxer twin. This engine is so cool because not only does it have an insane amount of torque, but the torque has a character that it feels like you're riding with your buddy. It's got this push about it that just trucks you forward. It just feels really comforting and fun. Of course, the sound of this engine is just mesmerizing. It sounds awesome, and it's relatively devoid of vibration. The vibration it has is the good kind. Makes riding fun, but a very smooth powertrain. This engine puts back 130 horsepower to the business end of that 17-inch billet wheel. Isn't that crazy? 130 horsepower. That's as much horsepower as a GSX's 1,000 liter class naked bike. That's absolutely insane. 130 horsepower and 95 pound-feet of torque coming out of this engine configuration. This thing is no slouch. It gets up and goes. The engine is mated to a 6-speed transmission with BMW's optional Gear Assist Shift Pro. That's BMW speak for an electronic quick shifter that functions on the upshifts and the downshifts. That allows for a full throttle acceleration without having to use the clutch. And then when you're downshifting, you can just downshift by pressing down on that gear shift lever, and that helps boost stability during corner entry. We also have a hydraulic clutch. This hydraulic clutch is better than ever. The original R1300 GS that debuted for the 2024 model year, it had this weird little like catch in the clutch, especially when you're launching from first gear, where it didn't feel right. Well, BMW sorted that out, and now this hydraulic clutch works marvelously. It no longer feels snatchy like the 2024 GS R1300 GS did, and works really good. Of course, we have a shaft drive. Oh, we're low on fuel, folks. I think we'll survive though. This bike has a shaft final drive, which means less maintenance. You don't have any chain to adjust. There's also no chain lube fling, so the rear end of the motorcycle does stay cleaner. You do have to service that bevel drive every so often. Now, this engine drinks from a generous 8-gallon capacity fuel tank. Isn't that crazy? This bike carries 8 gallons of fuel, and it gets 40 miles per gallon. How nuts is that? 40 miles per gallon out of this motorcycle. That is substantial range. As you can see here, we're going to go on our trip computer, 39.8 miles per gallon. Very, very nice. All right, everyone, so far so good on BMW's 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. I love this bike. The riding position truly is regal, and the power pulses from that 1300cc Boxer Twin just push you forward like you're riding with a friend. It is marvelous. Let's show you these optional hard case luggage setup. It's redesigned from the F900 GS Adventure, which we talked about in a few episodes ago. That TourTech source luggage was a little bit questionable. This stuff works a lot better. Look at the capacity. We could definitely fit a helmet in here. Very generous. You can remove this from the bike and lock these containers as well. How cool is that? We also have a pocket here to store things like this proximity key fob. This proximity key fob has to be in close relation to the vehicle for it to start. And then we have a key to get those bags off. Well, folks, enough talking about this GS Adventure. Let's continue riding because this bike is a hoot to ride. All right, folks, where were we? Yes, fuel mileage 39.8 mpgs. That's considerable range with this 8-gallon fuel tank. Now, this motorcycle rides on BMW's now signature telelever and paralever suspension systems. Telelever is so cool because it separates the steering from the suspension travel and damping. That allows a motorcycle that weighs nearly 600 pounds to have exceptionally light steering. It's also worth noting that even though this motorcycle weighs almost 600 pounds with a full tank of gas, you wouldn't believe how maneuverable this motorcycle is in tight parking lots. The steering lock is exceptionally nimble. This motorcycle just scoots right up and around in and out of tight parking spots, more so than a 400-pound sport bike. It's truly amazing how nimble this motorcycle is at slow and high speeds. The suspension system on this motorcycle, of course, it has semi-active suspension damping. You can adjust the suspension damping character in a global configuration. You just go here in the menu, go to the settings with BMW's touch wheel that it first started using on its 2012 K1600 GTL, vehicle settings, and then we can adjust things in here. You have to do it with the bike not running. Actually, maybe you can. Oh, I think you can do it through assist. Yeah, here you go, suspension. You can do the damping configuration. You can do this while you're riding. Right now we have it for dynamic +2 and enduro -2. Of course, you can change this stuff on the fly. How cool is that? And that just allows you to set up the motorcycle to your liking. Of course, this motorcycle has multiple global riding modes, which you can adjust right here with this mode button. Enduro Pro is designed for all of us off-road riders who want more vehicle control. You can not disable, but you can change the intrusion level of ABS and power modes and other things like that. If you're a hardcore off-road rider, you're definitely going to want that setting. Dynamic Pro allows you to tune the engine character and the suspension character for street bike riding for those who want that performance, and then road and dynamic are the standard features. Very, very nice. This switchgear, while it was good when it came out in the 2012 K1600 GTL, fast forward to today, and other manufacturers have caught up to BMW and offer good tactile solutions on their switchgear. Still, it works pretty good. Other bells and whistles this motorcycle includes heated grips, heated seats for rider and passenger, and this radar-enabled cruise control, which we're going to turn on right now. Radar-enabled cruise control is on. Signified by that, you can adjust the level of radar distance, the following distance, forward or back, just like that. We also have collision warning. So we're gonna go max, so now it can read that vehicle and it's gonna pace that vehicle. How cool is that, folks? The introduction of radar-enabled rider safety aids has just made riding so much more awesome. I mean, look, it's going to maintain the distance between this vehicle. A lot of you might be like, oh, that's silly. Well, it just makes riding a little bit safer, and it allows you to focus on other things you might do while you're riding. We also have collision warning. So if that vehicle in front of us starts deaccelerating in too quickly based on our rate of speed, this vehicle will automatically slow down. How cool is that? It'll also flash a warning sign. We also have blind spot monitor, which allows some level of warning if we are changing lanes and there's a vehicle in there. These motorcycles have come a long way. They're very high tech, and they're borrowing a lot of automotive technology that's just making riding more fun and safer. One knock on this electronics package and switchgear is this motorcycle costs $29,000. BMW Motorrad, can we please have backlit switchgear? This switchgear isn't backlit. KTM's $5,500 Duke bikes have backlit switchgear for 2025 model year. It'd be cool if BMW Motorrad also offered that. And its chief competitor, the Multistrada, has backlit switchgear. BMW, we need backlit switchgear, please, for 2026. Let's do it. This 6.5-inch color TFT display, it looks super sharp. It's easy to read. BMW first started using this display on its 2019 R1300 GS. Fast forward to today, it still uses it, and it still works really good. The only thing that is missing from this display is touch screen compatibility, but I think we can survive. Now, this suspension offers over 8 inches of suspension travel front and back, and it just rides like a dream. We talked about that tail lever front suspension separating the suspension from the steering activities. That allows this motorcycle just to ride like a dream. This motorcycle rides with Honda Goldwing levels of comfort. It is absolutely mesmerizing how comfortable this bike can be. Yet, around turns, this motorcycle still has a high level of road holding. Oh god, this thing's got some Sperry's. Oh jeez. Well, I was getting ahead of myself. This thing has some juice. I love this engine. Not only is it fast, it has a great character, it sounds super awesome, and it gets 40 miles per gallon. Now, the brakes on this motorcycle, triple disc hydraulic brakes. The brakes are crazy powerful. We have billet Brembo radial mount calipers. These things are superbike calipers, like real superbike calipers. And the brake pad material on this R1300 GS Adventure, it's rather aggressive. It's probably the most aggressive braking material I've ever ridden on an adventure touring bike of any manufacturer. That just allows for really sensitive braking feel. The brakes are very sensitive, they're very powerful, which you're really going to want in a nearly 600-pound bike. But the brakes aren't overdone. You still have really precise feel, and it's really easy to modulate brake pressure. Of course, we have ABS, IMU sensitive ABS on this motorcycle that you can tune in the Dynamic Pro and Enduro Pro modes. Out back, we have a nice double piston rear brake caliper. I love double piston calipers because they really, again, allow for good rear brake control. I'm a real big rear brake guy, so it's nice that we have really good feel and power through that rear brake. The serrated brake pedal is also really nice. It has good grip against the sole of our footwear. Let's go back in the 6-inch color TFT display. Of course, we can pair this vehicle with our iOS or Android powered smartphone. With BMW Motorrad's connected app, we can get turn-by-turn directions right here on the display. How cool is that? We also have this sport setting. So sport gauge cluster with the RPM, lean angle, brake pressure, DTC intervention. Kind of cool. And then, of course, we have that by vehicle with all the trip metrics. The onboard computers keep track of our riding. We also have TPMS monitors, so we know exactly the air pressure we're running inside those Michelin Anarchy trail tires, 19-inch front, 17-inch rear. This vehicle's outfitted with premium billet 17-inch wheels. Billet as opposed to cast. That gives a better finish and also makes them stronger. This motorcycle is also outfitted with the premium package and BMW's triple black styling package. This thing looks absolutely cherry. We're going to pay for it's just over $29,000 for this exact motorcycle in this specification. It's just so sublime to ride that I don't know, I think it's worth it. A Honda Goldwing Tour costs about that price, and this thing can do everything a Honda Goldwing Tour can do easily. And you can ride it off-road. We didn't even get to that. This motorcycle is fully off-road capable. We didn't have time to ride it off-road on this session of time. BMW Motorrad is tightening up their press loads, so we didn't have a chance to ride it off-road. But we've ridden the R1300 GS off-road a lot, and it's awesome. Much more light, much more nimble, and it feels like a dirt bike. It feels a dirt bike with a comfortable seat. And that's exactly what you want. And of course, this R1300 Boxer twin engine just has gobs of torque, just like you'd expect from a finely tuned 450cc single dirt bike. So these motorcycles have serious dirt bike in their ethos, which we absolutely love. Might be wondering what this thing's for. Sorry I didn't mention this is for a GPS. So you can put your GPS or your iPhone or Android phone here and plug it in to the vehicle, and then you can use your BMW Motorrad connected app right here. We don't like using that. We like using old school phones in the pocket. But if you have Garmin GPS or an iPhone that fits in this cradle, you can absolutely use it. Well, everyone, that was an exceptionally delightful ride on BMW's 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. These bikes are absolutely exquisite in their manufacturing, in their engineering, in their quality, in their ride quality, in their dynamic, and everything about them is exquisite. The Boxer Twin, what a gem of a powertrain configuration. It pushes you forward, has great sounding character, very minimal vibration, and it gets 40 miles per gallon, and it's got an 8-gallon fuel tank, so you can actually ride places without having to stop and get gas. The tail lever and paralever BMW signature suspension, it rides like a dream. This thing rides over bumps with better than a Harley Davidson touring bike, better than as equal as a Honda Goldwing. It is truly exquisite how marvelous this thing rides over pavement, yet it still has a high level of road holding in the corners. You're not gonna race a sport bike, but you're gonna be able to hang with a sport bike on this bike. It is truly awesome. All the bells and whistles and electronics make this motorcycle just so comfortable to ride. That huge windscreen, heated grips, heated seat for rider and passenger, radar enabled cruise control, radar enabled collision warning, the ability to pair your Android or iOS powered smartphone. This bike's awesome. You got storage. If there was one motorcycle I had to have in my garage, I would pick this one. I'd pick it over a Harley touring bike over a Goldwing. This thing just does everything, and you can ride it off-road. Well, everyone, that concludes today's MC Commute on BMW's 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. We'll see you next episode.